It's about that time. We are back. Welcome, everyone, to 343 TV, Selway Techno Saturdays. My name is obviously John Selway. Glad to be here with you guys. Already have a few people hanging out in the chat. What's up, Chris? NYC. John H. Kingston III is a regular of ours. Rockaway Park. That's right. Enigmatic Onion. What's up? Andrew, as ever, he's been hanging with us from the beginning, and actually, some of you might already know that Andrew and myself and my partner in Serotonin Records go way back with Andrew. We've been in touch with him since the 90s. He is old school and serious. Hey, Ed, what's up? Ed B. Sims, that's a new name for me. Greetings to you. So, today, yeah, it's Techno Friends, and Techno Friends is where I bring in friends that like techno. Or, you know, that I know from my years in the music business, people that I've worked with. And at some point, you know, I've been bringing in people that I've known forever because, you know, it's a good place to start when we're just having conversations and hanging out, like talk to your friends. So today is no exception. We have two guests today. As you know from the title here, we have Tim Xavier and Tony Rohr. Tim's been on the show before. Tony is new. Let's everybody welcome Tony and Tim. What's up?
Hey guys. John, thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you, John.
It's been fun just doing the tech setup and like the figuring out what we're going to do today and just hanging. And I honestly, I used to see Tony a lot more often. You know, Tony and I shared a studio in Brooklyn and, right. You know, we would work on tracks together every now and then. But, you know, he and I both have families and we're far apart now. So this is really the first time I'm catching up with you in a while.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, no, it was when did the studio in St. James, did you guys have that for a bit longer or
we kept it for a while.
Yeah, how long after I moved out of Brooklyn, which was probably 2010, I want to say. Yeah, 2009, 2010. That was probably the handover of the keys.
I think we did like a good 5, maybe 6 years or so.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And of course, our good mutual friend Greg Schiff was in there. He was kind of in charge for a while. And then he moved away and I was in charge for a while. And we had some new people come in. Yeah. I should have him on one day, right?
Right.
And so that's really great that we're reconnecting. And I've talked to Tim a little more often. You know, Tim, of course, he's been on Abe's show and we've had conversations before. Tim has his mastering studio in Berlin, Man-Made Mastering. And he's been on to talk about that a little bit with Abe. And, you know, I reach out to Tim every now and then for work-related, music-related, mastering-related stuff. So, and then, you know, I wanted to bring these two guys together today because, you know, well, one, we're all friends from way back, but these two have made some really cool stuff together. And so, you know, we're going to, you know, hang out, talk about what we're doing, what's going on in the world of techno, and related subjects, and then, you know, listen to a little bit of music. We've got some stuff from Tony, their Afternoon Coffee Boys project together, and Tim has brought in a new project he does with a guy named Mike Davis, so you're going to have to tell us about Mike when it comes down to it. Before we dive into more conversation, though, I'll just remind everybody, we are 343 Labs. We do this 343 TV stream almost every day at about the same time, 1 o'clock, occasionally on Sundays. And we do this to reach out, grow our audience, get people interested in what we do. And what we do is music education. 343 Labs has locations in New York City and in Berlin. We run in-person classes and online classes.
I had no
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, 343 Labs in Berlin is at the Riverside Studios. You should go check it out. And I don't know, maybe we can get you in there to do a workshop or something sometime.
And John, you're not just a pretty face selling it here. You're actually an instructor as well, right?
But that's what we're doing this like to grow community and spread love and show people what we love to do. But also, we're looking for people to come who are interested in learning. You know, they're getting started with Ableton Live and they want to get a little deeper, or they even want to like finish their first track. We got a course for that. I do a synthesis and sound design for producers course. Where we kind of, it's not specific to a DAW, but we take a look at different types of synthesis and how to be creative with them in terms of composition and making music. So like not only just strictly the nuts and bolts and the technical part of synthesis, but like, what kind of synths do I want to use for my kind of music? What types of different synthesis are good for different types of sounds, and getting to know your colors, getting to know your brushes and your tools.
The palette.
Palette, right. Yeah, so that's kind of what we do. And then, music production all together mixed up with the synth and the sound design. So that's what I do. And of course, I've been making techno and various other related styles of music for decades like these guys.
You've had a song or two out there, John.
A few. And hey, another person popped into the chat here that's new. Hey, Aiden Amini, welcome. Glad you're here for the first time. Really great to have new people. And all you new people who haven't been around, or if you've been around and you've just been kind of lurking a little bit, come in, say hi in the chat, ask questions. We'll try to field your questions. I mean, this isn't a production-specific show, but we are happy to answer questions. And
we're not going to talk about production.
We'll see. Tresk is one of my students from the Synth and Sound Design course in Australia. Great to have you here, Tresk. By the way, you were saying, Tim.
I was going to say, Ed B. Sim. Shouts out to you, man. That's my good friend from El Paso, Texas.
Nice. Very good. You guys have friends in here.
Yeah. Old Texas friend.
Perfect.
Fan of the label. Yeah. What up, Ed?
And Pandemic is back. What's up? Good evening. He's in Berlin as well. What were we just talking about? We were talking about I'm a teacher, blah, blah, blah. And I was given my spiel. And I was about to say, everybody, if you haven't already, please subscribe to 343 Labs. If you're interested in classes, please check the links in the description. Also, I think that's it. We're not running. I don't believe we're running any giveaways this week, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. So I don't think we're going to have a giveaway and announce a winner. But if I'm wrong, Thomas, please chime in the chat and let us know what's going on. And also, if you have any specific questions about 343 Labs, feel free to message or chat with 343 Labs right here. They can give you answers to any questions you have about the school and what we're doing going forward. So, that said, let's listen to some music. Let's start with some music. I think that's a good way to kind of like reset from our little intro here. But I want you guys to choose a song.
I gave him Dark Blend. He could just go right into the dark blend. It's like the one that put it there.
This track was such a fluke, but such a great fluke. That Tony and I produced. Am I allowed to talk over?
Yeah, we should because.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Dark Blend was a tune that Tony and I produced in Brooklyn when we were neighbors. And I think it was the same afternoon that we came up with Afternoon Coffee Boys. I mean, we couldn't operate without basically.
Well, I think it was Afternoon Coffee Boys before there was music for Afternoon Coffee Boys. Because it was just us running over to the Elliott Street Diner, or not diner, Elliott Street Deli, getting 2 coffees, coming back, and like, what do you got? What have you been doing? This, that. And then it was more like you would just go and download all these Reactor presets from forums and everything else. And like
I'm always
baseball cards. Hate it, need it, got it, need it, hate it.
I'm always on the hunt for like the weirdest VSTs, like the VST effects that I can use to just like really morph and bend sound. And in this tune, I remember specifically we produced this tune in Cubase And Cubase had a really nice, well, it still does, obviously. It has a really nice time stretching algorithm. And if you hear the hat in this tune, it's got that like chunky kind of stretchy vibe. And we time stretched that hat and made it like kind of two-tone. So it had like a kind of step to it rather than just being a, you know. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can get away with a shuffle like that today.
Well, okay, that's another thing. We have to acknowledge this, and this is one of the things I wanted to bring up. Since we're all like producers of techno that have been around for a while, and we have heard a lot of change and progression in what's going on with the music over time. And, we gotta, we should be clear here. We're listening to tracks that are like 10 years old. Things have changed a little bit.
This track, the track was released in 2006.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah, but we made it in 2005, I think. But
so
the rim shots, I remember when we were kind of playing with the shuffle, it was like, well, how far does the shuffle thing go? Well, let's just take it all the way here. And then we quantized that rim shot. And for me, in my head, you know how something always inspires something else. Like, oh, it kind of sounds like this, which I really like. So do you guys remember the what was it? Pump Up the Volume, Mars Needs Women.
Of course.
Yeah.
So there's that one section where those, I think, like African djembeles or something come in with like, and I kept hearing that in my head when we were doing the rim shots. So like, it kind of sounds like this. Yeah. Let's make it sound like that, but not like that.
And then we would do these elaborate breakdowns, and I think that was like kind of allowed back then, when you could do these like
long,
sort of
evolving sections with no kick drum forever.
I don't even know if I'd call them evolving. It was really just like put a blindfold on and add effects and just make it glue when the kick comes back in.
Right.
And then poof, you're psychedelic,
I get it. No, and I was just thinking, like, as far as how things have changed, like, everything we're hearing is like it's in the box production, right? It's a lot of audio and a lot of editing and a lot of effects and a lot of
This
plugins.
was all in the box, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, okay, everybody works like that, but also it's so different now. So many people are hardware focused in techno, especially leaning towards sort of the more underground. Like, there's this division between like the big room kind of business techno, and a lot of that, I'm going to say 90% of that's got to be mostly in the box, right? And it's all like modern plugins and modern effects, and then you've got a lot of the underground, and there's like, it's two layers of the scene now, isn't there? Where people are getting into the modular stuff, and like it's a little more raw and dirty. I know I'm generalizing. I know there's always a range in between that. And you can make totally weird underground stuff in software and totally commercial stuff in hardware, but yeah, Tim?
No, I just get...
Tim, come on.
No, it's all good. I mean, if I may, at the end of the day, I think that like it's really hard to tell who is using what and how. Now, there are people who are primarily using modular rigs that are syncing like drum machines, like traditional drum machines, whether it's an 808 or a 909. Sorry, I'm pointing at my drum machines. But at the end of the day, like, I think the one thing that really gave Tony and I an advantage was the fact that we are not only know how to use hardware, but we're editors.
Yeah.
And being a good editor and being able to deconstruct something that you've recorded from a machine and then make it work in a sequence is something special, rather than just I trigger everything from gear, because
I agree. That's really important.
You get a special skill set when you know how to deconstruct things and make them work in a sequence and mix them, versus like, here's a bunch of googly gawk. And googly gawk can sound good as well.
It's true. No, and actually, that's a really important part. I'm going to say, I've seen you guys do this, and I do this too. We'll just make some crazy random noises with whether it's hardware or
Like
a
right
plugin and just be like, doesn't matter what you do. And that's something I like to talk about in the class too. Like when people are kind of afraid to play with the sound, like they're afraid of breaking it. I'm like, no, break it, especially if you're making techno.
Yeah.
Turn the
Absolutely.
knobs into and listen carefully to what happens when you turn the knobs, but just mess it up and capture it all. Play, just put on a beat that you like, get your synth pattern doing something weird, and then just tweak the heck out of it for a few minutes. And don't worry about how good it is. Then you can go back and like take like 2 bars of it that are like the most perfect thing.
You hit the nail on the head, as they say, John. I think the person who's over analyzing, looking, okay, here's where I'm cropping it here, and here's where I'm cropping it here, is just as important as the guy that's in the, I just loaded 7 reverbs up on this channel and I put them all to this. Like
7?
It's the same importance, right? Because you're not going to get that crazy sound like you're talking about, John, where you're just, I don't know how this thing is supposed to work. I'm just putting everything to the max and let's see what happens.
I remember like back in 1999, I had my second record store gig, and the owner of the record store he literally had his house behind the record store. His name was Chris Anderson from Houston, Texas. And he was producing music, and he would write himself notes like change the envelope of this, add this is in a time when things were much different. And I remember when he wrote like in his notes, change the envelope of this sound and, edit this and edit that and whatever. And I remember asking him, like, what do you mean by the envelope? And he's like, well, the envelope is like basically the capsule or like the space where the waveform exists. So you can, perform like a sine wave, but unless it has modulation, it basically has no character. And that really resonated with me. It was like beyond like having a synthesizer and a drum machine. It was more about, well, you could record certain things into the box and then like edit them down and actually forge sound and make the sound bounce and like work with the drums rather than just kind of like, what is it, like bass drums smothered in hi-hats and bass,
Sure.
I mean, and this is like a thing that we encounter in mastering all the time, where someone will send a tune and you're like, okay, well, it's a bit groggy, clean it up, and you're like, okay, well, there's only so much I can do.
There's only so much turd polishing Tim can do when you send something over like that.
You said the T word, I didn't.
I know. I see the thought bubble above your head, Tim.
I mean, I enjoy how like the mastering industry has an edge to. There's an edge to it where we have to educate some of our clients. And be part of their process.
You know what I do with my students about when they ask about mastering? I say, don't do it yourself. And then I show them like, okay, just a really simple way of making your track louder so it sounds competitive. But like, I say that it needs to sound like you want it to sound before it goes to mastering. If you want it to be loud and punchy and bright, then the mix should be loud and punchy and bright before you squash it with a limiter.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, sort of a new thing. It's not new. It's like 3 years old, which can feel new. Is I'll tell clients like, hey, you mix down your tunes, and if they sound good in a car, maybe you don't own a car, earbuds, whatever, and you agree with your mix down, then you're doing yourself the service and not a disservice. Let me take it from there, and I'll accentuate and sort of do my voodoo and magic with all the tools. I mean, you can't just like make a tune, put it through a valve EQ and some compression and expect it to come out golden. It just doesn't work that way.
Lipstick on a pig.
Nice.
There we go.
I'm going to acknowledge our chat again just for a moment. I was wrong. I'm going to say, guys, I'm so sorry. There is a giveaway. I said there wasn't a giveaway, and I think I said maybe there's a giveaway, and it would pop up in the chat if there was. And lo and behold, if you check out the chat, we are sponsored this week by Splice. We're giving away a free 4-month subscription for royalty-free samples.
Nice.
And there's a link here you can click on and enter, and do it now, because by the end of the show, we will be announcing the winner. So keep your eye on that. Thank you, Thomas, for straightening me out.
I'm checking you, John.
Indeed. And Mar is here saying hello, first time. Thank you. Glad you're here and that you've gone through all the videos. Thank you for being a fan. I really appreciate that. And I'm really glad you're learning. Pandemic asks, can I do a joke? How about some gospel vocal deep house tonight?
Wait, what?
It's kind of like, wah, wah. I don't think we're going to get there. Sorry. I know you're just kidding, but thank you. I was trying to like can we make a joke? Let's not. So here we are. Max Wild says, I love googly gawks. Who said googly gawk before?
Tim said gobbledygook.
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 I said googly gawk.
Max
did he
Wild.
say googlygook? Okay.
Max Wild, get it straight. Not googly gawk, gobbledygook. Max Wild, if you didn't know already, Max is my boss at 343 Labs. He's the big kahuna.
Hey, Max, I'm Rainbow now.
He's our fearless leader. He plays the saxophone. He's pretty good.
Saxophone.
Max does our Theory Thursdays, right? Or his Theory Thursdays for 343 Labs, and you can get in sort of, it's more on the like, what is he doing with the notes, right? More than the sound design and the mixing. It's like getting into the writing part of it, which is really important, especially if you like melodies and chords and nice drum rhythms, which is he covers it all. All right.
You said COVID.
No, he said pandemic.
Pandemic.
Or whatever.
It's a fact of life now. It's going to be a while before any of these shots we might get for it are going to be available.
I think the pandemic's kind of, okay.
Careful.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. No, I think in a way for newer producers, it's, dare I say, the industry is kind of, we've pressed pause on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way for new producers. I know for me, like when the lockdown came, the first lockdown last March, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get back into production. Aside from my mastering duties, and like really just like started exploring again. In a way where like I kind of don't care. I'm not trying to please anyone. I'm just trying to make tracks that please me. I'm trying,
and that ends up being your best stuff, right?
Amen. I really believe that. And I started like buying up different pieces of gear and learning each one for the first time. Like I've never owned a 303. And I finally bought one. And within 2 days, I was like, oh my God, this shit's amazing.
Right.
I've always had an emulator or a VST, and then I'm like the 303 going into, an Electron distortion pedal into the DAW with like multiple effects or whatever. Like it's just endless. And there's so much you can do just like bending one sound. And then you're like, I'll put a bass drum to it.
Mm-hmm.
In the end. I know it sounds so rudimentary and kind of, oh, here we go.
I was thinking you're talking about a 303 and maybe some people don't know what we're talking about. So this is the clone, the software version that he was alluding to that he had, and now he's got the real deal, right? Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this is so much fun.
Make it chirp. Make it chirp, John. Get that resonance up.
Well, I think the beautiful thing about the 303 is the accent.
You can play with a 303
Like
for
the accent,
hours and not
the
get anything done, and it's that fun. And it all sounds amazing music.
I mean, the accent and slide, especially with a short sequence, like a hemiola, like a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Oh yeah, we need a shorter. Yeah. Like something like that. Something off.
Yep, but
With
let's
a kick drum.
let's
Are we
get
producing a
slide.
track together now? Oh, we need a slide now. Okay.
Yeah, you need to slide one, like slide 2 of those notes.
So it goes into the other.
Wow, wow.
Okay.
You gotta go. You gotta, hot and makes the 303 go meow, kind of thing. There you go.
There's a slide into the other note.
Now distortion.
Oh, distortion. Right.
Distortion, reverb.
I'm just gonna use whatever's in Ableton Live.
And when I come back, you'll have a track.
Pretty much.
Excuse me for 2 seconds.
What should I do next, Tony?
I think we need a little verb on it, right? Gotta slowly bring that verb out.
Reverb?
Yeah. There you go. Now it's yeah. So many 90s memories right there.
Sure.
At any tempo you want, really. You could be like your 110 acid jazz stuff, and then all the way up to like 140 or higher in some aspects.
You need a kick. I don't like that pattern.
No, it needs shifted somehow, right? It's not, the one isn't where it needs to be.
Nice. There you go. Now you need that 909 shuffled closed hat.
It's probably a little loud. Is it a little loud out there, guys? Can you hear us
No, it
talk over
sounds
this?
good.
Okay.
It sounds good. I can hear us talk over it.
Great.
I can't hear myself talk.
Oh, well, that's your problem.
Exactly.
I think we got it.
Yeah. And if people are thrown off by where the notes are, you can always steady them with the 16th note shaker.
Right.
That's it.
All right. Come on. What's going on here?
I think Tim was, you really summarized it perfectly when you said this is a big pause button on the industry. And I think for new producers, they need to take the positive out of all of this, which is we are constantly struggling to keep up with everybody else in your techno ecosystem or house ecosystem or whoever's out there doing gigs. This is the guy who's got the track out now, and well, he's DJing these shows, and like, now's your big catch-up moment, right? It's just a big pause on the whole thing. And so this is the time where if you made the occasional bedroom track or made the occasional good track, and you don't have the outside influences of, well, I got to take care of my kids or the car payment or the mortgage or there's this or that or anything else that would go along to sort of distract people from doing this full force. Now is your chance to go full force and be so ahead of the game.
So you think the playing field is a little more level in a way?
Absolutely. Same way 9/11 right here in New York. And,
I mean, even for us, like experienced cats, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that I was able to take the time to learn different pieces of gear and actually apply my skill set. Whereas there are others who might say, okay, it's hard to get in. And like Tony said, I'm going to produce music now, and I'm going to really like explore, because it is downtime. And even when things kick back in, we'll see. I mean, it's all about making tunes. I'm a firm believer, or I subscribe to the idea of like, I need to entertain myself. So you can love me or hate me or whatever. If I put on the headphones and hear my tunes and I'm entertained by my own shit, then I'm doing something right.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, it's like any kind of art. If you're like honest with yourself and what you want and how you feel, that's going to translate. And if there's less of a commercial, like, you know, pressure on you to like sell, and you're finding some other way to get by because there's no gigs or something, so there are people who are out there that are producers that are already like, you know, like, what do I do now? You know, they're finding themselves having time to be creative. Those that have the luxury of it. I do want to acknowledge that not everybody has the luxury of that.
No.
Right.
We have to think of that.
Let me ask you a question, John, or even Tony. So, what's your new favorite plugin? Is there something you're using that you love?
Way to change the subject, Tim.
I know it. I'm sorry. It's your show.
No, I'm just joking. Go ahead. You're right. Lighten it up a little bit. Let's put some music on and talk about plugins.
Now I have to go to like my VST folder just so I can actually know the actual name of the thing I like.
Well, when you're doing that, let me segue into this, which was
okay.
I loved when Tim would look for plugins because he would always find stuff that, like, you know, I don't know, is this going to crash my computer because we don't know where it was coded, or, you know, hey, Reactor has another preset that somebody on this forum.
That's not a thing anymore.
So we would have these plugins and stuff like, I'm trying to think of it. Oh, Crazy Ivan, right? Crazy Ivan would be one of those where there's no, let me draw in what this is going to do. It's just like, all right, I'm going to enable this and I don't know what the F is going to happen. So just be sure we're recording. Like you would enable it and maybe your CPU, your clock rate would go up and like things.
Wasn't Crazy Ivan like a Reactor patch?
No, it was one of those, I forget what.
It was one of those with a panic button.
Smart electronics.
MSP?
Like anything that has a panic.
Yeah. And you would just click it and it would do what you wanted to do for a little bit, or okay, that's kind of cool. And then it would just take over. And you're like, okay, turn the end down, turn it down. No, let's bump it up. Okay, turn it down. And
I'm looking at the page for the Crazy Ivan on the don'tcrack.com website, and the description is 100% certified pure evil VST effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nuts.
Absolutely. But it made some of the coolest, you know, kind of transition-y stuff. Going back to where you were saying, like, nobody makes breakdowns like that, John, or drops, as the kids call them now, leading up to the drop. It wasn't sort of regimented. Okay, we're going to bring in this, and it's going to build, and it's going to do this, and it's going to build. It was all, I don't know, Tim. What did you find? Well, I found this plugin called Crazy Ivan, and kind of does this, and we would just play with it.
This plugin comes without a warranty. It will destroy your speakers, obliterate your sound, and wreak general havoc.
Perfect.
I think if you don't have this plugin, I think and you're willing to risk your health and safety, I'd say give it a try.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those situations where we would be in the middle of a tune and be stuck and go, okay, the beat's good, you know, like and the compression and everything's mechanically everything is working together. And Tony would go, let's go add the Crazy Ivan. And we would add the Crazy Ivan, and I was like in the mastering studio, so like we don't want to blow the mastering speakers. And I would be like, bro, we gotta like tone it down. And he's like, no, it's okay. There's a panic button. And the panic button.
Okay.
I think the panic button mutes or what? I can't remember.
Something like that. Or it resets it, and then it gives you a little bit of time to turn the end down, right? Like you got that wet mix, and like, okay, just turn it down so it's not feeding in on whatever is giving it the strength.
Couldn't you like put quality, like, you know, a high pass and a low pass filter after it and a limiter so that you don't destroy everything?
No,
it's listen to reason, John. It just kind of just did its thing. And but you had to let it go and be the monster that it is, because you wouldn't get some of that craziness.
Right.
No pun intended there. Or
I
whatever.
think
But
I might do this. I might, because I remember this plugin too. I haven't thought about it in like a decade, but I might every now and then I look at a specific instrument or plugin in this stream, and maybe we'll do some like old weird plugins like this, and have some fun with sound design and Crazy Ivan. Thanks for bringing this up.
Make sure you're backed up before you enable that.
Well, of course, I'll turn the volume down. I'll put the limiter on, and you know.
And then there was a reactor one, Tim, that you found that was very similar, that would just kind of take off, build on itself. And those were the fun atmospheric stuff that we love. We found those, and also the patches on the Nord modular. We would get to some stuff that were kind of like that Enos Brew track that I sent you, John. It's really a Nord patch.
Oops, I left the 303 on. Sorry. Whoop. Go ahead, Nord patch.
Oh yeah, Enos Brew. Oh my God, I forgot about this too. I love this track.
Hey, while we're listening to this, before I forget, we got a really good question in the chat here from Mar. What type of processing would you apply to Techno for like the kind of a hard groove 90s sound, but with sort of modern standards? He's referring. I did an episode recently where I was going for that kind of like drummy, loopy, heavy 90s drive. And so he was curious to know what you guys would do in terms of processing or sound design, maybe even just to get that 90s feel, but have it sound fresh like 2020.
Okay. I think use the same instruments, right? So like, hey, they were using a lot of 909s. So get 909-ish sounds to start with, whether or not you're going to post-process them to bits but I would say get the original instrument, like the drum machines or what they were using then. You can score the original ones, that's great. If you have the VST, if you start with that, kind of like what Tim was saying, which is, hey, listen, you just make it sound good to you, and I'll do the rest.
Well,
you know,
I have an approach to it, to that. I have an answer to that question. And if you're working in Ableton Live, switch to, like, when you start a tune, instead of starting in clip view, start in arrange view and make the loop super tight, so it's like 4 beats or maybe even 8, but 4 would be more applicable to this situation. And make all your channels nominal, so they're not like all the way up or all the way down, and just start throwing in samples and start shifting them around until you get a groove. Just different samples. I don't know, bass samples, like hats, crazy stuff. I don't know, something you sampled from a movie or whatever that has low end. And once you get like a groove, then add the 909 kick. Because the kick is the anchor.
Right.
The kick is not making the bass. It's everything around the kick that's making the bass.
I think there's a couple of things to consider here. What you're saying.
Do you understand you understand my process?
Yeah. Well, and you're setting a limitation for yourself, and you're working within that limitation.
Exactly.
And then of course, you're doing this banging kind of hard groove, and you want it to, like, the kick to really be the power that everything is moving around. I'm gonna say though, mentioning that a lot of that 90s sound had a lot of layers. So it wasn't just like, it would be like multiple drum loops and one hits and things all kind of playing simultaneously, and it's kind of making this mess of a groove, but it's all tied together with that punch from the kick. And I think you could look at it a couple different ways. You could like try to, if you think about the samplers you're using back then, like Akai samplers, emulator samplers, like, or lower resolution sampling, it might be one way to get that tone, like a little crunchiness to your sound. Like there's so much like drum loopy techno that was made on Akai samplers, for example. Though if you use, but why did they sound that way? I mean, part of it is their hardware circuitry, like their analog circuitry, but also just the lower bit rate. It has this little kind of mid-rangey kind of tone to it. There are plugins out there that will emulate the sound of old samplers. So you could try that to reduce sort of that, and then you polish it up afterwards with like really fancy compressors and limiters and enhancing it to give it that modern edginess around it. Because back then none of us did that. We were just like driving everything through like the preamps of our Mackies.
Right.
most of the time.
Mackie or Behringer console.
So I would say you're kind of gonna start with like lower quality on purpose, like a little dirty, a little crunchy, a little lower resolution, and then mix it with modern, fancy, smooth, clean EQs and compressors, and push the levels, and
similar to what Tim said, where you're loading up different tracks. A lot of those 90s, early 2000s, that type stuff, like you said, John, it was just layer and layer and layer and layer. And the advantage now is, okay, if I've got this, okay, it's a salsa song loop here, and it's got a hi-hat pattern, and it's got this. And then what you can do now is you can actually draw in your, like a volume envelope of like, okay, well, this has got to be where the kick is. So every single one here is going to have room for the kick. You couldn't do that then.
Right. It was, and
you can make the same music, but now it's going to sound 10 times better just because you have so much more control over it.
I think these days it's a little bit lazy. Well, I wouldn't say lazy, but like, for instance, a lot of people send stem parts for stem mastering, and they're like, oh, can you make sure that the sidechain compression is intact? Meaning that the envelope of like an ambient part is chugging against the bass drum. And that's like, I mean, of course, sidechaining is a thing that it's a tool, it's a method that you can use. But like you said, drawing in the envelope can actually be more effective than having the compressor sort of measure the ducking of the tune, the ducking of the parts against the bass drum.
And that's built out of what some people may not have a problem with, which is back when you had CPU restrictions and like, okay,
right, you couldn't run a lot of plugins.
It's going to kill my computer, but if I draw in the volume, it's going to like that better, so it can handle that. It's like it's born out of necessity, not like a production.
On the flip side of what we're talking about there, part of the vibe and the groove and the energy of like this kind of 90s more kind of hard groove forward pushing rhythm is it doesn't do all that surgical stuff. If you want it to feel like 90s, don't sidechain everything. Don't sculpt everything perfectly, right?
Yeah.
You just fit the sounds together. Use EQ, use distortion, you maybe put a compressor on your master bus, because I didn't have multiple tracks of compression until the early 2000s. When I got one of those PreSonus 8-channel racks that you could get, that was like the cheapest. That was the most decent quality compression you could get for the price. That was affordable. And then I got rid of it because I didn't like it. But I would just mix everything through a Focusrite compounder. I'd be saturating the gains on my mixer, and then I'd be squashing the master bus with the Focusrite compounder that had that little thing that let the bass through uncompressed, a little crossover in it. And it sounded that if you were to do that, if you were to get like a 16-channel Mackie or bigger, and then put an old compressor on the inserts on the mix, and then run your computer mix through that, it would sound. You could get that crunch and that punch that we had from how we mixed in the 90s.
I think you're forgetting one thing, John, and that is that these old Mackie consoles,
they change.
On every channel, it didn't matter what console you had, but every channel had 100 hertz roll off.
Oh yeah.
And so Cisco Fierro, who I've done mastering for the Advent, he was like, I would just like basically switch on the 100 hertz roll off on all these channels except for the one that I want to make bass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the kick would cut through.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a what is it? What's the word? Not dissidence. There's what you hear in your studio and how it performs on a loud system.
Right.
And, let's talk about Goa for a minute. Goa's got the pin drop bass drum, bip, 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 right? And when you're
like a real sharp snap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got a very like a fast transient slap.
Mm-hmm.
And so does the 909 kick. However, if you go into Berghain and hook up a 909 and just trigger a stock bass drum, it goes. You hear the power of that kick.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also that, like, what you hear in the studio is not the way it's going to perform on a sound system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got that advantage of just doing that because I was playing a live show at Berghain. I was setting up everything. You do your sound check. Okay, test this. And I'm like, why don't I just load up a track I'm working on?
Roger.
Yeah, I was like, are you okay? How's the sound check going? I'm like, yeah, just a few more minutes here as I'm mixing down my track to hear what it would sound like out there. Like, okay, I think we're good. And that's right. I gave that to Adam for drum code. That work was mixed down at Berghain during a sound check.
That's an incredible advantage. And I think this is something for upcoming producers to realize is you don't really know how good your track is ever until you hear it working a sound system.
Yes.
You don't, for this type of music, all right, if you're singing folk tunes and playing the flute and it sounds good everywhere, right? It's not the same when everything, like this loud kick drum and all this air is moving in this big space.
It's air. You just said it's air.
We've talked about this before in the stream. I was talking about how like big room styles of music became that way, not just for musical reasons, but for practical reasons. It sounds good on these mega line array systems for these festivals. It's designed to translate on those types of systems. Yeah. And that's why it's mixed like that. And then you start making musical and creative choices based on what the room sounds like. Why is Berghain techno a thing? Because it's music that sounds good in a room that has a certain character.
And the room becomes an instrument.
Yeah, you learn to work the room.
Yeah, you're artists that are there to push air. It's less about the musicality.
Yeah, the air that moves everybody's body.
Yeah, I can push air.
So what do you do for a living? I push bass.
And Renegade Soundwave said that, and they said women respond to bass. I would say everyone responds to bass.
Do you remember Mix Master Mike? Like bing 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 bass, those old like Mix Master Mike CD, and we used to hear those around Houston, Texas, come out of like big bass cars and trucks and whatnot. And I remember like later when I moved to Chicago and I was finally producing music and putting out records, and I had one of those CDs and I ripped it to digitally and listened to on my headphones and also on my Tenoys at the time. The Tenoys had a roll off of like 50 hertz. But I was like amazed at how the low end and those CDs were, it's deep. It goes down to like 32 hertz.
Okay.
But the amplitude of those bass frequencies were not like amplified the way you would hear it coming out of a boom boom car.
No.
The boom boom car and the boom boom system most definitely amplifies those frequencies in a way that is different from the way you hear them in your studio. Maybe not today. Like loud systems are different, whether it's Void or Function or even Kirsch. There's processing involved that basically sort of limits and purifies the signal before it hits the speakers.
Right. I think
air pushing sound system.
That's right.
The air designed to push air.
I want to listen to some more music. While you were telling us your story about this bass music, I was trying to find an example to play, but I don't know. I found a mix someone put up on YouTube, but it was completely muted. I'm guessing that someone didn't someone got a copyright hit on that. Right. So before we run out of time, and we're coming up, it's a 1:48.
Holy cow!
I know, right? The time flies in here. I said.
I know.
We were getting ready for this.
I wrote down some topics. Okay, if we run out of things to talk about,
we were.
We're good.
Over prepare, and then you're good, right? We
that's
prepared.
John, I think we've covered everything.
I think. Okay, bye everybody. We're done. All right, let's acknowledge the chat again. There's some conversation going on over here. I'm seeing, let's see, Pandemic and Andrew Duke and Mar are having a conversation. Pandemic is talking about tracker, like C64 and Amiga tracker music.
The PA in Suicide Circus is fantastic.
I love playing in there. I miss that.
It's bloody, but it's good bloody.
And it's
outside,
high pressure.
It's got pressure. That's the thing, pressure. I mean, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, and I don't fucking give a fuck. Berghain sounds great, but it doesn't have the pressure.
You have to be right next to the speakers.
Yeah,
and even then, it like blows past you. I'm continuing. Sorry, Jim. I'm continuing to include the chat in our conversation. So, Pandemic had an Akai S612. Do you guys know that?
Wait,
S612 Akai sampler. Never heard of it, but 8-bit sampler. That must have like a really nice crunch to it, like a low bit rate. That's what we were talking about before to get this kind of old school sound. Lower bit rate sampling makes a big difference. And let's see. Mar says, I appreciate hearing everybody's take on this. Thanks very much. Yeah, this is why we're here. And Pandemic knows what you're talking about with that Suicide Circus PA. But his personal taste. But no, I think we agree with you. So, all right.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I've played in there. I mean, like multiple times, and even on a Tuesday, like it's indoors. It's fantastic.
One of my favorite DJ sets playing electro was there. It was just slamming. All these tracks just sounded like so good.
Yeah, and not only does it like punch and transcend to the crowd in Suicide Circus, you get like the low end in the booth, which is huge. There's nothing worse than playing a set where there's no low end in the booth. Yeah.
And back in the day, you couldn't do that too much because of feedback with the vinyl, but nowadays that's not a problem. Mostly people are playing digital.
Right.
True.
Or just monitors in the booth in general was usually overlooked, where I'm hoping that is
it depends on where you are
into a better situation now.
Right.
But yeah, you'd be playing at a party with this massive sound system, and they've spent tons of money on it, and they've dropped a lot of money on it, and then you get to play, and this is my buddy's stereo. We're hooked up for and one of the speakers is already blown.
Sorry,
do your best. Before you couldn't keep it out of the red.
That's when you're mixing with your headphones. I want to listen to some more music before we run out of time, and we haven't gotten to. We played a little bit of ACB. Tony, I don't think we played your individual track, but I want to make sure Tim gets his chance to feature the new project that he's got for his label. It's on your label, right?
Yes, it's on. A revamped Limited 400.
Oh yeah.
Digitally.
Right. So let's see what track are we playing?
Let's play. I can't see. I mean, you could play one of
head related revision or Tim Xavier version.
So Mike Davis. Mike Davis is a good friend of mine. He's a neighbor. Vast producer from Canada, lives in Berlin, and he's got a label called Brenda. You can search for Brenda Techno record.
Does he have a Bandcamp? I assume.
Yeah, you can find him on Bandcamp.
Cool.
And Mike Davis is also a client, and we decided to do an EP together on Limited 400. I would just play the first one. Why not?
Sure.
I don't.
So yeah, this is your.
It's a rework.
Tim Xavier, or a remix, as they say. All right.
And in this case, it's like a rework, but my aim is a more like kind of post-industrial club vibe.
I was getting that vibe when I listened to it earlier. This is a good example of kind of a vibe that's I don't want to say old, but it has a little bit of a retro feel to it. It has a flavor that existed back in the 80s.
It's a newie oldie.
EBM digital synthesis used for the bass line, tight sampled drums. It's a little crunchy, but you're doing this in a modern production environment, so it has a modern character to it as well.
And man, I'll tell you what, I like really programmed the shit out of the track. I mean, really spent a lot of time on the score. Tony knows me.
Yeah.
And Tony knows that, like, I'm the guy that's like, I just want to get the sequence done. And with this new stuff, like, I'm really spending a lot of time on the score.
Sounds good. And it definitely has like a cold, mid-range, like industrial vibe.
Oh, but the low end is there, baby.
Oh no, I know. This is going to be an example. I don't know how bassy this sounds to everybody. You know, these headphones I'm wearing go pretty low, and it sounds in the headphones that it might be light. But I know Tim knows what he's doing, and I know probably there's some transients in there that on a big system are going to be very powerful. I'm sure of it.
We basically have the same headphones. I think you have the more resistance in your headphones. The 32. I have the 32 ohm. So
they're louder. Yeah, I chose the higher resistance to help save my hearing. I can't blast them. I turn my amp all the way up, and it's still like not loud enough to make techno.
How's that working for you?
My ears still ring, but that's not because of the headphones.
Yeah, you could play this on the same night and then mixing into like joining the chant or something.
You could totally.
You'd be right. You'd be that evening, same evening.
Pandemic says the 80s feel comes from the toms. Do you have toms in there, or some kind of low percussion?
They're like toms with an effect, and I can't give up the secret sauce on this track. But the sequencing and all the percussion is coming from a specific source.
And it's your secret sauce.
It's the secret sauce.
Everybody's got to have, you know, this is an important thing. Like, I'll tell students, you want to find sounds that really represent you. And, maybe they're sounds that you made or sounds that you found. But, like, sometimes you want to, like, have a special sound that you bring back into your productions again and again that have your character, that have your vibe. And so that's what that is for you.
Yeah, like your process or your kind of, like Tim says with the secret sauce.
Right.
If you're using Ableton for your, let's say your editor, or you're using Cubase for your editor, step outside the box. Like, hey, I've never used this program that's on the internet that manipulates sound. I'll throw some waves in there. I'll do some stuff with it. Just hit record and then bring that back in
to
whatever you're working with. And then that could be your thing. Like, well, I bought this delay pedal off of eBay and it's broke, but everything I run through it sounds amazing, so I just keep recording stuff into it, and that's your palette. That's like, hey, I've got a whole drum kit made with a broken delay pedal. Or is there an artist that did that? Like a
Probably.
broken
Probably. Vegas Royal says, sounds great on my monitors. I agree, sounds good on my headphones. You can see on the spectrum analyzer here, there's plenty of low end. That's for sure.
Oh,
it's got boom. And
you can see a nice, careful roll off.
Yeah, this is a mastering guy. Of course it's going to have that.
I mean, the sweet spot is 50 hertz.
Sure, always. I mean, the 909 out of the box is 50 hertz. We have a winner, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you guys. The winner of our weekly drawing, who is winning a 4-month membership to Splice Samples, is John Henderson. Congratulations. We will be notifying you, or being in touch
John
directly
Henderson.
about how to get your... Yes, thank you. Yes, you'll get your prize, we promise. There was one time where, like, we didn't have the winner announced, and we were like, who's the winner? And I don't know, and I had to end, and then I don't know. So it's I'm glad we didn't have that, like, anticlimax of no winner. And yes, again, congratulations.
So listen, on Splice, you can, John Henderson, search Manifest Audio. So myself, Noah Pred, we have our Manifest Audio sample pack website, but we also offer, I'm Rainbow now.
Yeah, it happened. It's your Wi-Fi, I promise. No, I know you didn't have this problem with Abe. I get it. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But we have Manifest Audio if you want to visit the website. But Manifest Audio is on Splice, so
Great.
Please download our packs.
Yeah, John Henderson, you just got free Splice samples, so
You just got spliced, son.
You just got spliced. So go check out Tim's stuff. I want to check it out. Send me some of that. I need some fresh samples.
I will. Okay. Stock stuff.
Cool. I can't believe how fast time has flown. It's 1:58. We're not ready to stop just yet. We got a couple more minutes, but I will say, I just want to start saying thank you to everyone who's been here and active in the chat and
Thank you.
carrying on the conversation and asking questions and being a part of it. That's what this is all about. And I'll remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're subscribed already, get the notifications. What is it? A little bell you're supposed to go ding, and then we'll let you know when we're streaming, which is nice. You can give us a thumbs up if you like us. And if you're like, you can give us a thumbs down. That's valuable information too, because, we want to be good. And if there's something you don't like, then maybe we'll try a little harder next time. But we want to make you happy, but not, we're still going to do how we do it.
If you had a question, feel free to throw it up there as well, and maybe John will get it to us, and we can answer it after the fact as well.
Right.
If there's something a little bit more in depth, or they didn't get to tell Tim how he makes his kick drums, do this or that. Like, I don't know.
You could throw it into the chat, but if you want it to stay if you ask it in the comments below, if you make a comment down there with a question, that'll be there forever. So we can easily come back and find your question. And I have no problem. 343 Labs also, we can relay anything you want to say or ask of our fine guests here today. So we're winding down. I just want to say thank you again, guys, for doing this. It's been a blast. And
you're having fun.
I'm really happy to reconnect with Tony. Also, Tony's, as I mentioned, a family man like mine, and we both have kids that play video games, and we're already talking about like Minecraft realms and that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to probably going to stay in touch a little more now. I think that would be good. And
I hope so.
And let's see, Andrew. Yes, thank you for being here. Tresk says some great stories. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Vegas, Cosmic J, Pandemic, Martin Crockett, Ed B. Sim, who that was your friend, right, Tim? Andrew Marr. Did I say? Oh, John H. Kingston III. He's got that serious name, right? And I don't know if Max is still around, but Max. Just going up the list here. Looks like I've got everybody covered. Oh, Aiden Amini, thanks for being here for the first time, and Chris and NYC. If Enigmatic Onion, I think that's everybody. And we have one last question before we sign off. Let's get this question from Aiden. The sweet spot for rolling off 50 hertz on your mix bus.
Okay, so
keep it short.
Yep, rolling off at 100 hertz is for vocals. Rolling off 32 hertz is great for a bass drum. Rolling off your bass line at 50 hertz allows your kick drum to cut through.
Good advice, Tim. I think that was good.
Night.
And good night. All right, so that's it for this week. I'll be back next time. We'll be looking at some particular plugin. I'll have that announced pretty soon. Usually when I start to cycle over again, we're looking at a specific instrument for the first time and making some techno with it, whatever that will be. So come back for that. I didn't get the updated graphic for Monday, so you're going to see last week's graphic for Monday at the closing here, but dolltr on Monday. Come back for that. Thanks again to everybody, and we're out. Adios.